Hello and welcome to Diet Soda, Popcorn and a Weighted Blanket. I am so glad you stumbled upon my little corner of the internet and I really hope you like it here. This is our second ever episode, and I want to start by talking about this clip I found while scrolling on Instagram. It was a clip from Sex and the City, and it's the clip where Carrie is talking to her friend Stanford, and she's like, "I need to tell you something, but you have to promise not to judge." To which Stanford replies that we all judge. That is our hobby. Like some people like art and craft, we like to judge, which got me thinking that even though we've been told and taught to not be judgmental and not judge a book by its cover, the reality is judging a book by its cover is just so easy. Judging is almost like a reflex, right? Like you look at something and you already have like an opinion forming in your head, and that's how we make sense of people and things, and that's like a major contributing factor in our choices as well. I think the problem only begins when the initial first impression judgment is the only contributing factor in our choices. I think that's why we've been taught not to judge instantly and to kind of analyze stuff in more depth and understand and then make an informed decision or choice. Plus, at times, judgment makes for amazing gossip. In my opinion, in the Venn diagram of hobbies from all around the world, the center is gossip. And like at this point, gossip is like a life skill you need if you want to socialize. It makes for great dinner party anecdotes. And it's fun. It's fun. And most of the times, nobody really has such extreme opinions about events or people they talk about. It's poetic license. It can be an amazing form of entertainment, but it is only good when it is just for entertainment, because there's obviously a downside to it as well. I think a lot of us have fallen victim to the downside as well, where it becomes like a sort of coping mechanism in difficult situation, and initially it's just a vent and we don't even realize when that vent goes to a rant, to a complaint, to then almost making yourself a victim in a situation, and that's never good. Think about it. Your coping mechanism is most of the times a choice. And when you cope while gossiping and then somehow putting yourself in like a victim situation or victim role, what you're doing is you're forgetting that you're making a conscious choice and then almost deliberately making yourself feel powerless. So, I want this to be a healthy reminder for everybody that absolutely nobody is powerless. We should have faith in our power, and we should definitely believe that we are powerful. When you do that, you start to trust yourself a lot. Because you have power, you trust that whatever choice you're going to make that you really want to, but you're scared of, you're like, even if it's scary, I trust myself enough to see it through. This state of mind at least allows you to actually go ahead with difficult choices. And obviously, this is not going to be linear. It's not, you're not going to always feel like you got this and everything's smooth sailing. Obviously, it's going to get challenging because these are difficult choices that you're making. And whenever that happens, let things go and turn things over to your higher power and just keep doing whatever you can in the moment, whatever feels right and whatever is possible for you, and then just trust the process. You know, there's this song in Frozen 2 where things are not going their way, and the song, there's lines which basically say that there's a tiny voice in my head which is saying that you're lost and all hope is gone. And at that point, the only thing I can actually do is just take the next step, do the next thing that I feel is right. You all should listen to it. It's called The Next Right Thing by Kristen Bell. If you've not already, even though Frozen 2 was like a huge hit, so probably a lot of you have. But if you're going through a tough time, play it again. Listen to it, maybe it'll help you. In my understanding, the song is basically just asking you to do whatever you can while just having faith that you'll be taken care of. There's someone up there or wherever, like whatever you truly believe in, whatever your higher power is, they're going to take care of you and things will work out in the end. I know it can sound very patronizing, especially when you're in the thick of it, but this belief just helps you sail through a little ease. Also, another thing that I would like to touch on while we're on the subject is that most of the time, like, of course, you're free to choose whoever is your higher power, but I believe it is not another person. It can't be another person. You can have mentors or idols or guides or friends who you look up to or whoever, but they're not your higher power. I'm going to reference another TV show that I've been watching, pretty much rewatching at this point because I'm just going through the same episodes again and again. I find it very comforting at this point. It's a show called Mom, and it stars Alison Janney and Anna Faris. They are alcoholics and they are aggressively sober at this point because alcoholism has basically ruined their lives. I feel their alcoholism basically is a consequence of the tragedy that is their life. It's just been very unfortunate, and alcoholism was just something that happened to them because they were self medicating with it. Anyway, that's not the point here. So they're doing the 13 step program with the whole Alcoholics Anonymous support group. And in that program, you're supposed to have sponsors. And so our main character, Christy, she starts working with a new sponsor at about 3.5 years sober. And she's having a hard time adjusting because with this sponsor, she's like, I'm going to be your sponsor, but I'm not going to be your friend. And that's just something I do. I'm not friends with my sponsor, so don't expect that from me. Otherwise, I'm here for you. And being the people pleaser that Christy is, she tries super hard that her sponsor likes her. The sponsor's name is Nora. I keep saying sponsor way too many times, and I'm just gonna say Christy and Nora. So then Christy makes her chili, and the whole episode revolves around it, how she's just trying to make Nora like her. And by the end of the episode, they're having this conversation where Nora's like, listen, I understand that in your life, your people pleasing attitude has served you very well, but now it no longer is required. And when you do it now, when you're doing it with me, you're making me your higher power. And I'm your sponsor. I am not your higher power because at the end of the day, I'm also an alcoholic. So don't do that. Don't make me your higher power. We're both powerless when it comes to alcohol. So don't make me your higher power. It's just something she basically tries to ingrain in her that it's a very bad thing if you're doing this. You can come to me for help, you can come to me for guidance, you can come when you're feeling vulnerable and I'll help ground you, but that's my role. Similarly, when we make someone human our higher power, it can get extremely messy. We can have guides and gurus and teachers, parents, everyone. They have a role in our lives, but they're not God. They're not supreme power or something. They're also human and they can be wrong at certain point. And if you find yourself doing this yourself, where your higher power is another worldly, you sometimes can get so lost in appeasing them that you forget that ultimately at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. And when you don't fill your own cup and you're trying to do that for someone else, it's generally a bottomless cup. Or even if you fill that cup, maybe you end up completely empty and completely drained. So I think your people pleasing should start at home and should start with yourself. And don't get me wrong, any advice that comes your way or any guidance that comes your way is coming from a good place. They want you to do well, they want you to be happy, but it can be different from what you want. And you need to do what you want because you don't want to end up at your deathbed, whenever that is, feeling regretful that you could have done this but you didn't because you wanted your guy to be happy, or you wanted your parents to be happy, or you wanted to appease the society or something. So trust yourself, have courage to go against advice, go against the tide, go against plain logical sense if you have to. Because if it's your deepest, desperate, most desire, you owe it to yourself to at least try. And it's okay if it doesn't go your way. Like, give yourself permission to fail as well, but try your best. Even if the chances of you succeeding are million to one, what if you're the one? I am borrowing from the song Million to One from Camila Cabello. I love that song as well. It's just so nice. And just, whenever you're going through a tough time, find all these little songs, pieces of media, whatever comforts you, and stick with them because these really help you keep going. You don't know how many times these movies have grounded me and taken me back to my zen, honestly, because sometimes I can really spiral and things can get really dark in my head, and then I'll watch something like this or listen to a song like this, and for a second it'll feel like it's okay, I'm just in the thick of things and things are going to work out eventually. I'm working towards it, and even if there's a little bit of a blockage, there's a little bit of a delay, it's going to come my way. And even though none of this guarantees a positive outcome, at least I'm able to survive the bad part, the hard part, and I can deal with whatever the outcome is later, whenever, we cross that bridge when we reach a kind of thing. I want to talk about another movie and another beautiful thing that I found in it, which is on similar lines, and that is Zootopia 2. For starters, let me clarify, let me give you some background. I am petrified, but somehow in this movie, the protagonist, which is Judy Hopps, she's a rabbit cop. That's the whole premise of the first part. She puts all her trust in a viper, and somehow the magic of animation has made this viper look so cute and warm and inviting and just lovable in a way. And I really like it. I'm always so in awe of how animation gives all these animals expressions and it just transforms the character. Because while the snake looks so lovable, there are lynxes who are basically just they're a part of the cat family and they're the villain and they look like the villains. They look evil and it's like one of the characters. This is a spoiler by the way, so if you don't want to know about this, skip on ahead. His name is Paw Bird, and he's evil. And it's a revelation that happens towards the end of the movie. And there's a shift in his expression because he looked like he was different from the rest of his evil family, but then turns out he is even more crazy than they are. And there's this point where this shift happens to his expressions and he looks dangerous from someone who looked like this misfit in the family, who was the black sheep of the family, to then looking like a crazy person that you run from. That's just so amazing. Like it's the magic of animation and I can never get over it. Anywho, for context, the movie revolves around how this place, which is Zootopia, doesn't have any reptiles in it because there's been like this reptile attack 100 years ago, and since then reptiles have basically been banished. Especially snakes have been banished from Zootopia. Like they don't even live in the same continent where Zootopia is. They are across the sea. This is where a cute little viper comes in. His name is Gary the Snake. That's his name. The Snake is his last name. And he comes in to clear the name of his family because the accident was basically something that was put on his great grandmom. And he's here to clear names and to resolve some mysteries which are just not known to everybody. And in spite of all the prejudice that is in Zootopia for against reptiles and especially snakes, Judy Hopps decides to put her faith in Gary because she feels like he's on the right side, and she goes through with it, and they uncover the whole story. And now their goal is to let everyone else know and have proof to back it up. And they're on the way to gather proof, which is a really difficult job because there's these family of lynxes whose name is Lynxleys. That their surname is Lynxley, so they're the Lynxleys who are hell bent on making sure the truth is what they've told everyone for the last year. So while they're on the way to their quest, Judy is talking through everything and she's showing her slightly anxious behavior. And then Gary comes along and he's like, you need to calm down. And she says, no, but what if, like, if you're not over prepared, we're underprepared and we need to make this right and blah, blah, blah. And Gary's like, listen, it's okay. Like, even so close to making things right for me and my family, my parents would never want me to have the weight of the world on my shoulder because I can't have it. Like, it's not fair for me to deal with that. And neither is it fair to you or any single person in the whole wide world to have that weight of making sure that everything is fair and everyone has justice, everyone finds justice and everyone's happy. It's no one person's job at any point of time. And obviously this is a strong enough message on its own, but what I really liked in this was there's this anxious behavior that's going on, and there's this little piece of zen who comes in, and he's like, calm down, it's fine, you don't need to be anxious, we just need to. He actually says it. He says, I believe we will succeed, believe we will succeed, and that's all. Believe you will succeed and go on doing what you're doing, and that's all you can do. That's all that is in your control. And that is such a powerful thing to say to someone who deals with anxiety. I deal with debilitating anxiety. I have had those episodes of not being functional and just panicking, and it's not a great place to be in. And when I watch something like this, it's such a comfort. Like, I just made it a mental note in my head for the next time when I feel like anxiety is taking over, I'm gonna remember the words of Gary the Snake. I think Gary the Snake is the mortal enemy of anxiety. And when he says just believe that you will succeed, I think that truly is coming into your own power. I think that's the ultimate goal. You just believe and go on. So from now on, when my anxious behaviors take over, I will chant the mantra of Guru Gary this, and I am sure it'll help me because it just makes me it it like when I hear it and when I'm not even anxious, I feel like my heart rate goes down by 5, and it's just I just feel calmer and honestly like a little happier. It's beautiful, and I think for someone like for a child to watch this movie, it's like a lesson. It's not like for me it's I find a way to cope, but for a child it's going to be like a prevention to anxiety that he or she may have as an adult or whenever, like as a teenager, whenever anxious behavior starting over. It's amazing. It really is amazing. I think this is as good as a time as any to end today's episode. I hope today's episode gave you some comfort, or like just something to add to your watch list or rewatch something if you've seen any of these already. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you follow us on Spotify, rate us, rate our episode. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button and like a video. I post every Wednesday at 4 p.m. So make sure you tune in next week as well. That's it. Thank you for listening.